There are two types of houses on earth: the house of bondage and the household of faith. Many times, a believer, child of God, can be in the house of bondage spiritually. Now, the house we are talking about here is a spiritual house, not a physical house. We're talking about a spiritual house. There are principles to building a spiritual house and making sure that we are in the right house in order for us to prosper and to be established in the wealth that God has given to us. Many Christian families are not able to have wealth and prosperity that goes from generation to generation, fourth generation, 10 generations. You can hardly count how many Christian families can you find on earth that have 10 generations of prosperity and wealth. Do you know why? No house. Because the concept of the house of the Lord has not been established. You can have a good job. You can be married. You live in the house. But Jacob in Genesis chapter 30 said to Laban, "When shall I provide for my own house? When shall I provide for my own house? Am I going to labor for the house of Laban for the rest of my life?" Now, at that time, he was married. At that time, he had children. At that time, he had a house that he slept every night. But he said, "You know what? This is not my house." And many of us, for the rest of our lives, have labored in the wrong houses. God wants to call his people out of laboring for the wrong house. And what wants you to labor for your house? The house that he has appointed for you. Now, if you go to Genesis, the three sons of Noah, Shem, Japheth, Ham. Now, let's look at the prophecy. Now, in Genesis chapter 10, when the prophecies of this tribe were being given, Shem is the first son of Noah. Abraham's family comes from Shem. Ham is where Africans come from. Japheth, Europeans. Indians, Chinese are Africans by ancestry. You better know that now. Europeans, Americans, Japheth. But when the prophecy and the blessings were being given, you know what he said? He said, Japheth shall dwell in the tent of Shem. That is in the house of Shem. Europeans are prospering because they are under the covenant which Shem got, Abrahamic covenant. Hello? If you have no house, you can't prosper. Or if you are not in the right house, your wealth cannot be established. Africans, the sons of Ham, we have to now connect to the same Shem's house, which is the covenant of Abraham, for our families to prosper and be in health and to be established in wealth. Now, when God was going to use Abraham to set a new model on earth in Genesis chapter 12, God called him out of the house of his father, out of the tent of his father. Out of what? The house. It was not just a physical house, it was a spiritual house, because at that time, the guy had already left his father's house. They've already left all of the Chaldeans. So what we're talking about here is a spiritual house. You can be out of your father's house physically, but still dwell in your father's house spiritually. God is saying, for kingdom families, for godly families, for prophetic families to be established, you've got to come to the right house. Not just that I am already saved. Yes, that is something. But you need to be called out. You need to call out your life, your family, out of your natural father's house and align with the house of the Lord.